Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Happy Friday. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you could join us this morning.
Hey there. We're going to talk repos with this Friday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's good. It should prove to be a pretty educational conversation. But before we get to that, a couple of things we just wanted to make some announcements about. One is, everyone already knows this, that the town hall, the first ever Buy Here Pay Here regional town hall, is this coming Wednesday. That will be broadcasting live for BHPH Nation TV. All day long.
I think everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
There could be a couple of people out there without internet, and if you know them, go tell them. Go knock on your neighbor's door and make sure they know the town hall is Wednesday. Yeah.
And just so you know that we will be broadcasting live in all the places that you can normally hear us for the morning show. The recordings will not be in those regular places. So if you don't have the opportunity to listen the entire day, please make sure that you register at bhphnationtv.com. And then you'll get access to those recordings after the fact. So you can kind of listen to everything. It's totally free. And we just, we're going to be putting it into the Nation TV. And that's it. Just will be a lot less bogging stuff down in all the other places. I don't know how great everyone's going to feel about having an 8-hour or a 5-hour or 6-hour recording sitting in Facebook.
Yeah.
So, all righty. And then we have coming up here pretty soon is the Super Forum, which is in November. That is, we're going to be speaking at that, and that's going to be
as will today's guest.
It's going to be the 9th, 10th, and 11th. And everyone we've been talking to, they seem pretty excited about this. It's a very different format than we've seen in the past, and it looks like that NIADA has very successfully gotten people excited and aware of what it is that they're going to be doing. And on that theme, our guest today is actually going to be one of the speakers at the Super Forum. Her name is Bryanna Cox. She is going to be talking about repossessions and protecting your dealership. And so I'm going to add her to the stream and say good morning. Good morning, Bryanna.
Good morning. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome.
We know it's 8 a.m. and we know that's tough for somebody who's a night owl in the repo business, right?
I think most of us are. I mean, some of us are morning people too. Me not so much, but I got my iced coffee here, so I'm excited to
there you go.
For this.
Yeah, I know when we were talking about having you on the show that you're like, okay, I can do this. I'm just not going to be working the night shift before.
Yeah, I know. I felt bad. All the field staff was like, "You coming out tonight, boss lady?" I was like, "Nope, can't do it. I got a morning thing." They're like, "Oh, you have a morning thing?"
You do morning?
I'm like an 11 to 11 type of person.
Oh, nice. All right. So, Bryanna, we're excited to have to be able to listen to your presentation at Buyer Payer Super Forum, and we wanted to bring you on to talk a little bit about some of the things that are pretty important for the repo world, because from our conversation, you were describing how you joined some of these Facebook groups, and then you've been seeing a lot of people asking, "Hey, I need a repo. I need a repo."
Yeah, I realize there's like a huge gap of education here. Look, everybody has to start somewhere. My husband and I certainly did. We haven't always, you don't just wake up and like, hey, I'm going to open a repo company. And like, all of a sudden you have like, these top tier, like prime clients, right? Like And so, everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody has to start small and, kind of work their way up. And not that, we snub our noses at buy here, pay here, clients. We've been attending, like we attended the Houston Auto Dealers Independent meeting a couple years ago when they had it here. And it was an eye-opening experience then too. And then joining these groups, I think it's Amanda that runs the Buy Here, Pay Here success group in the boardroom. And she's awesome. I've gotten to kind of know her on Facebook, my husband and I, and she's really cool. And so we joined these groups with her. And the more I started paying attention, I was realizing like people were asking for a repo person, but they were getting really bad recommendations. And one stuck out to me in particular because someone was asking for a repo person here in Texas. And, there's several things that are required of us to, be legally operational here in Texas.
So let's talk about that. What in the state of Texas, what do you legally have to have in order to operate a repo?
So you do have to have a TDLR, and TDLR more so licenses us than governs us, unless you are also like a towing company, that has like a VSF, a vehicle storage facility. We're not. Our company is strictly repo. So that's the main thing there. And then you do have to have like your sales and tax use certificate, right? Because we do have our wonderful little Texas service tax that we have to charge on top of our services because we're considered collections. And then, your franchise tax certificate. And another thing that this isn't really required by the state, but it should be required by anybody you're going to hire to do your repos. You want to make sure that they have the correct insurance. This is so, so important. And I think I mentioned to you guys, there's people who want to play repo and then there's actual repossessors. And, no offense to those people that are trying to get started, but a progressive policy is not a repo insurance policy. It is not going to cover you for the appropriate on hook, garage keepers, or the most important, wrongful repossession.
Well, I think one thing too, as a former dealer, I know that often people will say, well, we're bonded, right? But that's a very different thing.
Yeah. And so, that's basically just protecting you from like your, like employee theft and damage type of stuff. But really that wrongful repossession, that on hook coverage and that garage keepers is really going to be what you guys need to look at. And a bond is great, but it's still not going to cover you for those three things.
Right. Good morning, George in Florida. Thanks for tuning in. Also, Jeremy in Arizona. Thanks for being here. So yeah, Bryanna, that's the thing that I've, as a former dealer and obviously a business owner yourself, you have to think about those liabilities and where are the vulnerabilities. And, I certainly see some, and we you don't have to pay attention long to see signs of, or hear the stories about repossessions gone bad. And we know that happens. And we know that there are a lot of, liability around that. So we think it's really important, obviously, for dealers to know how to protect themselves. And the first step is really just hiring somebody that's got the right insurance, right? And as part of a network otherwise.
Yeah, the right credentials, and so, especially if you're going to hire someone out of state, you want someone, hey, Amanda, you want someone who, who you can rely on, that is going to be an accredited professional repossessor, because, and know those laws for that state too, especially if you're not familiar. So there are some great resources to, assist dealers in locating, a good, quality repossessor, professional repossessor. The ARA, the American Recovery Association, I'm a member. They have a great membership directory on their website. You can search, I think, by state, by zip code. And those are going to be, their current accredited members. And they do have a book too, but, members join all the time, and the website is more up to date and super easy to use. And we're in a digital age, right? So I mean, you can dust off those books if you want, but jumping on the website, super easy. A lot of the states now have state associations. Here in Texas, we have the Texas Accredited Repossession Professionals. I'm actually the membership chair for that organization. We also have a membership search on our website, which is texasarp.org. You just click members and you can search again by zip code, by, area, city. There's state associations. We really, CalAR in Texas, the California Association, is the oldest, and Keller and Texas were kind of the only associations hanging out for a really long time. But during COVID, well, we all didn't have anything to do, right? Because we were all shut down just like everybody else. And so like all of these repossessors nationwide kind of got together, and we were like, our industry is struggling. Like, what can we do to change this stigma about like, repossessors in general, like make this industry better, change the reputation of repossessors, because it truly has changed. I mean, most of us are business-minded professionals that are, trying to run a business. We're not trying to be, the lizard licks of the world. So, so I think we went from 2 state associations, and just the other day, my friend Jerry Ware, she was announced as the president of the first multi-state association, which is of the Carolinas. So now I think we're up to 15 state associations, which is huge. I mean, it's just huge. Everybody's really getting involved and pitching in. So, always check to see too, if you have if your state has a state association. Anyone feel free to reach out to me. I can point you in the right direction. But if your state doesn't have a state association for repossessors, always the ARA is going to be a good resource to help you find someone. And I'm pretty sure they have members in all 50 states.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I think that's so important. You kind of breezed over it, but I think we see that there are a lot of dealers out there that don't recognize that, if, for example, you're a Mississippi dealer and you're going to repossess in Wisconsin, you have to abide by the rules in Wisconsin, regardless of what your rules and what you're used to in your state. If the debtor is in that state of Wisconsin, as an example, it's better to hire somebody in that region who knows the stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, you definitely want to do that because, I think we talked a little bit too when we had our pre-talk about that post-repo process, right? So you also want to trust that your collateral is going to be secure, that, you're going to pay the rate that you agreed upon, whether it be the actual repossession, any ancillary fees like flatbeds, dollies, et cetera, or keys, storage, if you want them to do, your transport to auction, or, a lot of our repossessors now are actually even offering remarketing services from their lot. So that's a discussion that you're going to want to have. And even if you're just going to sign this one off, have a contract to protect yourself, with your post repo terms, that this repossessor is going to follow the state laws, especially if the consumer, the debtor, wants to redeem from their lot, that they're going to charge or not charge the appropriate redemption and administrative and personal property fees. So personal property is a big deal. For example, here in Texas, we actually do have to send a mail notification after we recover the vehicle that we have inventoried and stored and obviously secured their property at our secure location. And so a lot of people misinterpret this law because we're technically supposed to hold it for 31 days, but it's 31 days after we send the notice, and we have 15 days to send that notice. So really we can end up holding this property for, 46 days. And that's something that, we really need to pay attention to, because we are liable for that property until, that expiration date. So you really want to make sure that your whoever you hire to recover your collateral is very aware of those laws and regulations in their state and that they're following them.
Yeah. Would you say, Bryanna, like, is it common for, if I hire a repossessor out of state, as an example, isn't it going to be common that they're going to perform an inventory of personal belongings as part of the deal, or does it need to be in the contract?
Well, I mean, anything CYA, right? So it should be in the contract, and the contracts I have with my clients, it does define, the pre-repo process, the active repo process, the post-repo process, and that's just, that's protecting them, the client and me, and it creates accountability there, right? And we know what's expected of us. So yeah, I mean, I would agree. You can't have too much information in a contract, right? And I mean, you can have just a basic contract that, you can send, if you're just going to send that one repo to Wisconsin, that you send that contract to that repossessor. But I do think it's smart just to protect yourself.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, I personally saw and that we continue to see with other dealers and continue to share with clients is, the hazard is if I were hiring an out-of-state repossession company and they indicated they don't do, because I've had people tell me that they don't do personal belongings, and I got to find somebody else then, because I, I'm aware of the vulnerabilities there, because if we think through a scenario where customer comes to claim their belongings and says, where's the briefcase full of cash that was in my trunk?
Yeah,
Where,
exactly.
where do we go from there? And what do I do if I have a tow truck that brings it to me, even across town? Obviously, it was not in my direct control and not in my possession while it came across town. So I really need the repossession company to take ownership of those belongings, take,
An inventory.
accountability for those
Absolutely.
belongings from the point of repossession. So that's why I think it's just so important, because I see the weakness and the liability in that if we don't, close that loop.
Right. And so one of the things we do at our company, and people always kind of jaw drop when I tell them this, we don't break into cars anymore. And so I actually had a client one day tell me, well, Brianna, that's like buying a burger without the bun. I said, not anymore. I said, because let me tell you about the liability, right? And it's not, it doesn't even just begin with the property. It's the liability of actually breaking into the vehicle, right? The damage, the frameless windows, the lockout kits, things like that, right? So we have a window where, once that vehicle arrives at our lot, obviously we make sure doors are locked, it's secure in our secure facility, but we want to give that consumer time to either one, bring us the key and make an appointment to redeem those personals before we even, we take pictures, obviously, right
Sure.
upon repossession, but we don't get into the vehicle. We take pictures through the windows and we don't touch that property. This is one of my biggest things because, man, I got to tell you what, it was a long time I had to learn. And I was so tired of dealing with those kind of complaints, right? Property complaints. Like I had that briefcase full of cash. Well, if you had it, it would still be in there because I haven't entered your vehicle, right? And so the only way that we enter a vehicle is if obviously that consumer makes an appointment to either redeem their vehicle or their personal property within that, hold window, or we cut a key. So we cut and program our own keys at our lot. And most of our clients have gotten on board with this because it limits their liability and it limits ours, right? So once that vehicle's on our lot and the doors are locked, the windows are up. If a window's broken, we always put crash wrap or whatever, but we don't enter that vehicle until it's time. Like we don't have an option, right? Like that vehicle is going to leave for auction. We've cut the key, we've programmed the key, then we take out the personal property and inventory and store it in our secure facility that's on camera, right? Because we just don't want to have those arguments about that briefcase full of cash. So make sure that the repossessor that you're hiring has a very clear post-repo process on property to limit your liability and create accountability for them.
Sure. Yeah, I think that whole inventory thing is so fascinating to me. And I've shared the story many times with clients who are kind of helping them understand the vulnerability. But I'll always remember way back in my days of first managing and had a customer come in who was a problem customer for us, for before the repossession occurred. But the customer showed up to claim belongings. The first thing that she said when we'd prepared our list, 2 people present, prepared our list, and one of the first things she said is, "I just want to make sure to find my grandmother's wedding ring."
Oh
And
yeah.
we both looked at each other, myself and the assistant manager. We didn't
Roll
see
your
it.
eyes. Uh-huh.
Okay, so what's she going to say that's worth?
Uh-huh.
How are we going to protect ourselves, from that scenario? So I'm just always remembering that scenario and thinking, and luckily we knew and we were protected and buttoned that one up. But it's like, if you didn't have that, where would you end up in that situation?
Right. And, it's not that I don't trust our staff. We're fortunate that, most of our staff has been with us a long time. And so I do kind of have situations where like I roll my eyes because I'm like, okay, like none of these people nothing in your car is going to be worth their job to them.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
But we do take precautions because humans are humans. So like we actually have a separate smaller lot in the front of our actual like lot where we store the collateral, which is like an employee parking lot where they park their cars. So like where they are, working on post repo process in our lot where we store the collateral, they don't even have access to their vehicle. Like, you know what I mean? So like,
Sure.
so we just take those extra precautions because,
Keeping honest people honest.
Yeah, keeping people honest, yeah, exactly. And so, and like I'll explain this to consumers who say they have that briefcase full of cash. Like, well, everything we do is on camera. This is our process. So like, please make sure that you didn't misplace your briefcase full of cash because I will pull the video and I will make sure. So don't, let's make sure this claim isn't, erroneous. But I'll tell you what, I have a story about a wedding or a ring too.
Oh yeah.
I had a little couple that had come to redeem a vehicle and, or not a vehicle, I'm sorry, to redeem their property, and the vehicle was getting ready to go to auction. So we had actually, removed the property. We do when they come for their appointment, we get their key and then we go remove their property. And they went through their stuff and they came back to the window and they said, "Hey, my girlfriend's engagement ring is in this secret pocket." And I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, I went and I looked, and that engagement ring was in that little secret pocket. And it was the first time that anything like that had ever happened. And I was like, oh, there's a first time for everything, I guess. I saw somebody had asked at the bottom there if there was like a 50 sheet.
Yeah.
So there is and there isn't. It's really, really hard because the rules or the laws and regulations are just changing so much. But Repo Buzz is also it's repo.buzz, and then they have a Facebook group as well. They have a collection of Facebook groups, but the main group is Repo Buzz, and Dave Branch runs that. I believe he actually recently did share a 50-state cheat sheet for laws, and I will follow up on that. And if I believe that's what he shared, and if it is, I will get that over to you guys to share with you.
Is it correct where I put our repo.buzz?
Yep, that's the website. And then they also have an agent directory on there, like with an interactive map. Some of the people on there are area members, some are, Allied Finance Adjusters members, some are state association members. So that's a good resource too. And then the Facebook group, just Repo Buzz, is great too.
Awesome. I would also throw in a mention there. I know they used to have, excuse me, a law firm out of Maryland, Hudson and Cook, used to have a subscription service that dealers could subscribe to, and it would share some of those same things that we're talking about. It's just kind
that sounds familiar, Hudson and Cook. I think that they're. I saw someone from that company. They're going to be at Used Car Week on the attendee list.
It makes me a little nervous when our dealers are out there trying to be lawyers, but let them do their own research and make their judgments. I'm just saying, I think I'd feel more comfortable hiring somebody who's a professional in that
and make sure your repossessor has a a retained attorney as well, because we are consumer rights attorneys' dream.
It's a dangerous thing that we do, and I always tell folks when we're training people, and of course I come from the time of doing, self-help. We used to do our own repossessions with disbursement fees and all that. So when you're teaching people how to do that, I would just tell them, look, we've never financed a car that was worth fighting over. And so, there's no reason we ever want it to become confrontational.
Absolutely.
We know what happens, right? Yeah. Sometimes we can take this thing a little personal. Yeah. And especially if we're the creditor who's, been frustrated by the customer, then that makes it even worse. So obviously a repossession company is less likely for that to be personal, strictly a business matter. The
stories that Jim tells about them in the day when they did their own internal repos of people that they would leave the house, they would unchain their car from a tree. Come back and rechain it to the tree.
He actually, my husband was actually out in a truck one night, this ages ago, and it was a truck and it was backed in to the driveway. And my husband said he just had like a really bad feeling. I mean, he's been doing this for a long time. And so, obviously we always want to get out and assess the situation, see if the wheels are straight, anything, because you want to be prepared. So he's doing a walk around of this truck, obviously after verifying the VIN and making sure it's his unit. And they actually had chains locked to like the drive shaft or whatever, and it was going into the garage. So it was into something in the garage. And so anyway, my husband left it, but I guess somebody else repossessed it, and they ended up calling us, and they completely ripped off the garage door because they didn't see the chains. And so consumers tend to some tend to do some crazy things, and I get it. I mean, I understand that people feel like this vehicle is like their lifeline. I do understand that, and I have a lot of empathy for it. And, you know, a lot of people are like, have very strong feelings about what we do and you know, consider it to be a dirty job. And it may be, but we try to do it in a professional way. And, you know, somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
But I really would advise against dealers doing their own repossessions. We have a friend locally here that had opened, he started with like a car wash, and then he opened a body shop, and then he opened a dealership, and he's very successful. And he had initially asked us if, you know, when he first started getting, you know, repos, if, you know, we wanted to do them. And he was like, oh, you guys are just so expensive. I'm just going to do it myself. Well, after a couple of times of doing it himself, he was like, you know what, maybe you guys aren't too expensive.
Well, we would also advise that dealers not do their own. I mean, it's just this day and age, like, you know, the price of an individual repo at the time, it feels like a big number, but when you factor in the layer of liability piece alone, for me, it's like not really something to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we have so many precautions that we've learned to take over the years. I mean, we have a very effective system. We have a 24/7 dispatch. We have live surveillance cameras on our trucks and our camera cars. We have 4 camera systems on our trucks that give us a 360 view with audio. And somebody is always, you know, watching our staff, not necessarily to monitor our staff, but to make sure that they're safe and that you know, the repo process is going as it should. And you guys mentioned confrontation. I'm big on that too, because violence in the field is not going away. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we encourage our agents, if there is an objection or like, it's not worth it. There's plenty of other cars, just drop the vehicle and move on, you know, and we'll pay them for that. And a lot of our clients will actually pay us for that. Because, you know, the violence in the field issue it's an issue, and it's
sure.
I'm sure you guys have heard the stories, and it's gotten worse through COVID because people are desperate, and desperate people do desperate things.
Yeah.
So we only have a few minutes left. We kind of told our audience that we might have a repo story or two from you. You got some favorites that you want to share?
Oh gosh, I don't know. What kind do you guys want to hear?
Dramatic.
Something dramatic, but not tragic.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I gave you the engagement ring.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the gross things debtors do. I actually mentioned this on the auto remarketing podcast. I think one of the grossest situations we ever had was we recovered an RV. And this particular consumer definitely felt some type of way about their creditor. And they had actually saved their own excrement for what I can only imagine was quite an amount of time. And the entire inside of this RV was just coated with human feces. So it was
my goodness,
really disgusting. We biohazarded that and sent that bad boy off to auction.
And it's like, do you really want this back?
But most of the time, honestly, it is kind of boring, and I prefer it that way.
Oh, of course.
You know, if we can get in and out unseen, you know, no issues, get that vehicle to the lot, mark it repossessed, call it in. You know, that's definitely what I prefer. I don't so much relish in the crazy stories. I'd rather have a staff and a profitable happy clients, and, you know, no issues.
Yeah. And I would say, you know, what we've seen on TV about the repos, you know, the repo shows, they're obviously dramatized. They're choosing the dramatized stories. As you know, most repossessions are without incident, you know, just grab and go, and it's on to the next one. And so, yeah, those are obviously dramatized. Most are, you know, go down without incident.
Yeah. And that's really what you want, right? That's kind of one thing I hate when I, you know, I'm like, when we go to parties or whatever, and people ask what I do, I kind of dread it sometimes, because I'm like, you know, like, and that's the first question is people just really don't know. They're like, is it like TV? And I'm like, it is nothing like TV. Right. It is absolutely everything that you see there is nothing that we do. Like, we can't work for actual, you know, prime lenders and represent, you know, creditors and act like that. That is, our objective is to get in and out. And like, I don't want to have a confrontation with the consumer.
Tyler Simmons asked about the most expensive vehicle you ever repossessed.
We do some luxury vehicles. most recently, we picked up one of those new Bentley SUVs. We picked up one of the Lamborghini SUVs. We've picked up some McLarens, some Rolls Royces. So yeah, I mean, they get up there, and that's another thing. So if you're doing luxury leasing or financing, you're going to want to make sure that repossessor has the appropriate coverage, because especially the garage keepers, make sure that coverage is actually going to cover that vehicle and all that other collateral on their lot.
So wait a minute. That means that some folks with high income even don't make their payments. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And
you don't know well enough to know that.
And there's, I guess there's an inside joke there.
No, I just know that, obviously in the buy here, pay here space, we're dealing with folks who struggle, with income more, but the reality is sometimes what happens on that is it's not always about income, right?
Well, and a lot of it is fraud too. Like a lot of these luxury vehicles end up being, fraud cases.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yep.
All
Well,
right.
we should probably let you go. We're looking forward to seeing you in Austin, Texas for the BHPH Super Forum. You're speaking on Thursday at 4:30. That'll be Thursday, November 10th.
Yep.
4:30.
And it's basically going to be a lot of what we talked about in this conversation. I really want to educate our dealer friends on how to protect themselves and find, and hire and partner with the right repossessor, because it's so important. I mean, you can use the unaccredited guy down the road, and you might have used him for 99 repos, but it only takes one to really screw things up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, before we let you go, Bryanna, do you like smoked old fashions?
I do. I'm a whiskey kind of girl for sure.
Well, we have the smoked old fashioned tour, and we will be doing gathering a bunch of people together. Anyone out there in listener land that wants to join us, please private message us. But we did quite a run at TAIDA for the restaurant there, and they were fantastic.
Awesome. Cool.
All right. Well, you've got it. You got an invitation for that, and we'll make sure that you know exactly where we're going. And like I said, anyone else who's interested in joining us, we will be at BHPH Super Forum in Austin, Texas, and that's going to be the 9th, 10th, and 11th of November. So it's a month away.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's coming up so quick. And then I get home for one day and then leave for used car week. So November is definitely going to be a crazy month, but I'm excited. I'm excited to meet all of you guys in person. My husband's going to come with me, so you guys can meet him.
Oh, we'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're super excited, and we love Austin. Austin's a great city.
Oh, us too. Us too. Very much so.
Well, thanks again.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
you guys. Yeah, and if you guys ever, or you or your listeners ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can easily find me on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
For our listeners, it's BRYANNA, right?
Yes, sir.
They can find you on Facebook.
All right. Excellent. Thanks again, Bryanna. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Too. All righty, guys. I hope you've enjoyed today's broadcast on repos. Repos are fun, not okay.
Do's and don'ts. Don't do it yourself. There you go.
All right. And then again, guys, we this coming Wednesday, we will be broadcasting live all day long for the first ever BHPH Regional Town Hall, which is going to be in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. Please make sure you get registered at bhphnationtv.com so you can look or watch the recordings after the live broadcast. We will be broadcasting live in all of the same stations on Facebook, the pages, but
we're broadcasting live from a car dealership all day. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? You're going to want to be there to see what on earth goes wrong.
Yeah,
it'll be a fun day.
All right, guys,
we're ready.
have a great week. It's Friday. We're just heading into the weekend, and then we will chat with you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.